All right, we're just about to start. So let me start changing some of the screens on my desktop, and then we should be ready to go.
How's that? Can you see that helmet in the background?
Oh, fantastic. You know, it's perfectly appropriate. I hope you noticed I also dressed up for the occasion.
Yes, you look good.
Thank you. All right, Mark, do you see the introductory slide of my PowerPoint presentation?
I do.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, for those of you who have joined us today, thank you so much. I am so excited to have you here with me and with Mark. At this point, you should see just me, but when Mark starts to speak, you'll be able to see his image. I am speaking to you from the Ford Alumni Center here at the U of O campus. Along with me behind the scenes is Susan Burton, who's Assistant Director of Student and Alumni Relations. And our featured alumni, our featured guest today is our Duck Insider, Mark Pilkington, who is Director of Global Brand Culture at Nike. So we're super excited to have him here with us. I know you'll enjoy hearing his comments and his experience. Before I start, I want to give a quick introduction to an additional role that Mark plays with us. He is on the UO Alumni Association Board of Directors, and that is a term for alumni who are interested in being more involved in the lifeblood of the University of Oregon, particularly through the Alumni Association. He's also a lifetime member of the UOAA. Speaking of membership, I want to thank all the members who are on the webinar today. The vast majority of you are members, so I can't thank you enough for being a member of the UOAA. Programs like the Duck Career Network and webinars like this would not be possible without your membership and your involvement. Membership makes the U of O stronger. Our goal is to help you be better ambassadors and advocates, champions and cheerleaders for the U of O, because the stronger the U of O is, the greater satisfaction we get as friends and alumni of the U of O. So now on to the program. I have some slides that will guide us through the questions I'll be asking Mark. Mark, also I have set up the PowerPoint deck that you had sent me, so if you'd like me to click through any of those, I would be more than happy to. And so I think at this point, if I could ask you, I think what drew many people to this webinar was simply to meet you and to learn more about your role as Director of Global Brand Culture. Personally speaking, I think it sounds like the best job in the world. So maybe you could start by telling us a little bit more about your role.
Yes, I've had this role for about 2 years now at Nike. I actually started at Nike in 1980, so I've had many jobs over the years, been very blessed. But my current job as the Director of Global Brand Culture is essentially to help connect primarily our internal audiences, our employee base, better connect them to our values, to our culture. You know, a culture is going to evolve. No one's going to direct culture, so my title's a little specious, but the whole point is that we want to make sure our culture here evolves in a way that stays true to our values, stays true to who we are, and what got us here in the first place. We've been fortunate to have many successes over the years, and we've grown as a company and as a brand, and we want to continue to do so. We believe the best way to do that is to stay true to who we are.
Great, great. And you mentioned that you've been at Nike since the 80s, which sounds like you've been able to be on the inside, seeing the development of one of the most iconic companies in the world now, but back in the 80s, it might have been a little bit different. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how you got there, how you got your start, and what you've seen since that time.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Eugene and kind of grew up with the brand. You know, Nike started as a handshake between an athlete and a coach, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman. And Bill Byron was the head track and field coach at the University of Oregon. Phil Knight ran for him in the late 50s. They shook hands on January 25th, 1964, and started a company called Blue Ribbon Sports. They were importing Japanese running shoes, Nitsuka Tiger running shoes. Bill Byron had some design ideas. He was quite the innovator. And so Phil Knight would try to translate those ideas to the Japanese. And in the early 70s, then the two companies had a falling out. I think Phil Knight felt like he was ready to start his own brand, and so Nike was born in the early 70s. It grew in the 70s primarily as a running footwear company. By the time I started in 1980, it had started to branch out primarily through promotional means to American football, baseball, tennis, basketball, and then our first apparel line launched shortly before I arrived in 1980. I graduated from the University of Oregon in 1979 with a degree in journalism, and I worked, while I was going to school at Oregon, I worked for a local television station, KVAL. At the time, it was the NBC affiliate. Now it's the CBS affiliate, but local television market, very small, but it was a great opportunity for me because then I learned the television business from the inside out, from the ground up. I had the opportunity to have many jobs at that television station, and I worked there all the way through college. One of the professors at Oregon, Tim Wren, went on to Nike to become their PR director. He remembered me when he convinced Phil Knight and the marketing vice president, Rob Strasser, to start their own film and video department. So I started March 15th, 1980, coming up on 35 years at Nike, by starting the film and video department at Nike. Of course, now the consumer platforms are all digital, but we still have a core group here, digital brand media, that had basically evolved from that first two-man film and video department. But even then, you know, the leaders of the company recognized the power of moving images and telling stories, particularly sports stories and Nike stories. And so, you know, video now is a major part of our culture. You can't go into a meeting of more than a handful of people and not have somebody show some sort of educational, inspirational video. And so for whatever small part I played in helping to develop that, I'm very proud because I think it's a big part of our branding.
Wonderful. And so from starting at the film department and then also in the last couple of years being in the global brand culture space, can you tell us about how you moved from position to position within Nike? And did you find it fairly easy to do? Did the culture of Nike facilitate that? Can you tell us a little bit more about the transitions within Nike?
Well, you know, I was very lucky, very blessed. You know, when I started with Nike, it was a very small company. It was still privately held. We went public in December of 1980. I used to tell Phil that when he hired me, it was the final piece of the puzzle that he needed to have the confidence to take the company public. Of course, he just lapsed. But no, it was just coincidental. But the summer of 1980 is when Knight first went into China. He had the vision of building a manufacturing base in mainland China, but also, you know, he saw the obvious marketing potential of billions of feet in that market. And so I helped put together a couple of videos that he took into the country in 1980. And then I basically worked in film and video as a writer-producer through most of the 80s. And then some of the skill sets that I developed as a producer, a lot of project management skills. You know, when you work at that zone, it's a combination of left brain, right brain. You obviously have to bring some, you know, creative juice to that sort of position. But then you're also managing a budget. You're managing to a schedule. You're hiring crews. You're scouting locations. You're feeding the crew, housing the crew. So it was an easy transition into managing our sales meetings and trade show events, which were very important back in the day when we were launching new products in our seasonal lines. We'd go to all the big sporting goods conventions and trade shows, and that was before the campus was built. Once we built the campus, and the original campus in 1990, we kind of moved out of most of trade shows, and we invite our retailers, the media, investors, most of our major events we do here on campus in Beaverton because, you know, we just have the power of the brand here. And but in the late 80s, the sales meetings and trade shows were very important to us. Out of that grew a concept we call Nike Town. And I helped build Nike Town Portland, and the second Nike Town store was in Chicago, so I was a project manager for that. And out of that, I moved into sports marketing and started an events department. I had a small team where we were managing basically consumer experiences at primarily sporting events like marathons and tennis tournaments and that sort of thing. And I think probably the big event for me, one of the most memorable, was the Atlanta Olympics in 1996, and then on to World Cup in Paris or France in 1998. And then I've kind of been working the event marketing zone from that point forward, primarily global events, Olympics, World Cups, World Championships. More recently, my team has gotten involved with U.S. Olympic track and field trials, which were in Eugene in 2008 and 2012. So it was really a lot of fun and a kind of a labor of love to be involved with projects there on the University of Oregon campus. So, you know, the Nike story and my story, I've been fortunate to be a part of it, really is intertwined with the University of Oregon. You know, Tinker Hatfield, another U of O alum and former athlete, calls Hayward Field kind of the birthplace of Nike innovation, because that's where Bowerman had his shoe lab under the West Grandstands. And so as a kid growing up in Eugene and kind of getting to see the beginnings of the company, and, you know, meeting Bowerman and Phil Knight close up, it's, you know, it's just, it's almost surreal to think that now I've been here 35 years and I've kind of intertwined my career with Nike. So it's been a fun ride. I've been very blessed.
It sounds amazing, and I think there's a lot of people who would love to be alongside with you there. So speaking of that, in your observation, and especially with the explosive growth of Nike and all the people who would love to be part of Nike, who do you see ends up being really successful in Nike? Who are the people who stay? Are there some people that you see get in and then they're like, well, maybe, you know, there's a different place that's a better fit? So could you share a little bit about what you see of the people who are effective there?
Sure. Well, that's a really good question. I think that the company is so big now. We have close to 60,000 employees worldwide that I can only offer my perspective. It's interesting. I'm probably one of the few people that have been here this long that has not been stationed overseas. I've done a lot of travel with Nike in my work, but I've never been stationed anywhere other than Oregon. But I can tell you that my experience, you know, we're basically a company that serves the athlete. That's what we're all about. We're a sports company. We're all about sports. We're all about innovation. You know, we serve the athlete through providing innovative products and services and kind of leading athletes to hopefully better products and methods of training and competing. And so I think people that come in and understand that have a leg up right away and can embrace that. You don't necessarily have to be a big sports fan or an athlete to have success at Nike, but I think it's helpful if you have an appreciation for what motivates athletes or consumers, how they think, what drives them in training, what drives them in competition, and then I think that helps you be a better teammate here at Nike. You know, I think that it's important to have the confidence to be a self-starter. Phil Knight calls our culture one of our most important assets and most valuable assets, and he talks about this dichotomy of being a company that is kind of independent, rebellious. It supports the individual in terms of his or her ability to bring innovation and new ideas to the table. But we're also a company that relies on our teammates. And so it's very much, even our organization is very much like a sports team in that you have to have your all-stars, but the best all-stars make their teammates better and are serving the team. And I think so the people that have had the most success here, I don't necessarily include myself among them, but if you look at people like Mark Parker, who's our president and CEO, and some of our other senior leaders, they have this unique ability to have the confidence and conviction of their ideas, to share them honestly and openly, and we get into a lot of debates and arguments about you know, what we should do and directions we should take. But at the same time, once a decision is made, then everybody kind of rallies around that. and we go forward as a team. That's when we're at our best and when we're successful. I think the people that maybe have struggled a little bit are people that maybe don't have that can't share that conviction of team, that understands the importance of team, that's being part of something bigger than yourself. And I also think people that you need to have a thick skin to work here. We have a lot of very smart, intelligent, skilled people. They all bring great ideas, but we can't act on every great idea. And so while you're encouraged to speak up and to help solve problems or take advantage of opportunities, your particular idea or suggestion may not be adopted. So instead of moping in the corner and licking your wounds about that, I think the best employees say, okay, understood, and they rally and they regroup and they come back, in the next project with different ideas. So you have to have a certain resiliency, I think, to succeed here, and I think you have to have an ability to kind of deal well with ambiguity, because we're in a very fast changing industry. Nike, the way it's organized, you may have 3 or 4 bosses, teammates that you're reporting to or working with, and it can be sometimes confusing for some people in terms of driving an initiative or project, in terms of getting the right checkoffs and balances and OKs, and so know when to kind of act independently and move the ball down the field on your own, and knowing when maybe I should be checking with my teammates or regrouping. And that's almost an instinct you have to develop here rather than something that is taught or learned.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I neglected to mention that in the audience today, we have individuals who are recent graduates of the U of O. We have some seasoned professionals out there as well. In addition, we have some members of our Student Alumni Association who have another year or two or so of school before they leave. In my observation, there are individuals who want to join Nike right away. Some are lucky enough to do that. Others, they maybe career shift in, and for those who get in, there is also that observation that sometimes people stay for a very, very long time. Could you share some of your observations about, for entry level, what kind of helps people get in? For people who have come in with experience, what is it that they're bringing that maybe Nike was attracted by?
Sure. First of all, I think we have a very dynamic internship program that has kind of grown and evolved rapidly over the last 8 to 10 years. And so those that are fortunate enough to be selected for internships, learn a lot about the company in the 3 months or so that they have the opportunity to work here. Primarily, those are for upperclassmen, either rising juniors, is that right? Rising seniors, although we do have some graduate level internships as well. But I realize that's limited to several hundred people. I think for people new to the workforce, recent graduates, I can't stress the importance of using anybody that you may know and networking and asking for informational interviews. People here have a different philosophy towards taking informational interviews. I enjoy meeting new people, young people, especially in my current role now where I'm not responsible for a team. I have a little bit more time to take informational interviews, so I do that. And then what I try to do then is, depending on how the person strikes me and the kind of skill sets or the career path they're looking for, then I might suggest a couple people that they should follow up with here at Nike, and pretty soon that branches into others. And then at the same time, they should be checking our job postings, and as they apply, if you let the people that you've had informational interviews with know that you've applied for certain positions, they can give some guidance as to whether that seems to be the right fit for them, whether they'd be qualified, whether they'd be a viable candidate. They might put in a word with a recruiter on their behalf, because we get something like 48,000 resumes a month here at Nike. So if you don't have at least some sort of inside connection, and you may have the best skill sets in the world, but it's really tough to be kind kind of rise to the top of that pile. Recruiters here are very busy, and they're almost overwhelmed, as you can imagine, with the number of people that are applying for various positions. So, and I also think that, and we discussed this briefly the other day, James, is that we hire a lot of temporary workers, ETWs, we call them here at Nike. And I think that is a really great way to get your feet wet at Nike. If you can pick up a job that may be, 6 to 12 months in length, it could be a special project. You could be filling in for somebody that's on some sort of leave or is on a stretch assignment. You get into the place and you get to know people, you get to understand how the company works, the culture works, and you make connections that way. And it's a nice way to say, okay, I think this is the place for me, but I'm going to try it out for a while. I'm gonna date for a while before I get married. And managers have a lot more discretion in hiring temporary workers. When I managed marketing, it was a lot easier for me based on the project and the initiative to bring people in focused on a particular project. I always had the budget for that. It didn't require as many approvals. But to get approval to hire somebody or add your headcount required a little bit more work. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for entry-level people in a temporary capacity. So that would be something that we call that program the Flex program at Nike, and there's more information on that on our website.
Wonderful. Definitely, and when I talk to students and alumni, sometimes there's that perception of temporary staffing positions as being maybe a little too simplistic, but I've heard of very meaty temporary worker type of positions, and it all depends on the vacancies that exist. And thanks for letting us know about Flex. I think another firm that I've heard of is also Aquint, and so part of it, as you mentioned, is doing informational interviews with people inside Nike to find out if their unit, if their function works with a particular staffing agency. So that's great advice. So a side comment to our audience, I have another question or two to ask Mark, but then we'll be able to take your questions. And the way that you will submit questions is using the WebEx menu. You may have to go to the top of your screen for the drop-down menu. Look for Q&A. There's also a chat option. Susan is behind the scenes monitoring those fields. So if you have a particular question, this is the time to start thinking about it and also jotting them down too. Okay. So, and I guess, Mark, if I could pick your brain a little bit more, you're on the inside of Nike, but obviously you're talking to lots of people who are fans of Nike, who love the product, who love the story, and who want to be part of it. Are there, are there misconceptions or, erroneous perceptions of what Nike is or what they do or how it's organized? I know for me, talking with many HR and also alumni folks, the organization, as big as it is now, is very complex. And I know you use the word, the term matrix. But could you maybe give us some insight into how Nike is organized, and for someone who's interested in learning more, how do you sort of take it into component parts?
Sure, absolutely. So we are currently organized around geographies. So we have North America, for example, we have Europe, we have emerging markets, which includes Brazil, India, South Africa, and others. We have mainland China, and then we have Japan. And but we're also organized around sport businesses or categories. So there's basketball, and even within basketball, you've got Jordan, which is a sub-brand, but still communicates with our broader Nike basketball team. You have running, you have women's, you have men's training, you have soccer or football, you have American football and baseball, the cleated sports. So essentially, we operate those almost as independent businesses in terms of the way that we attack the market and the opportunities and the way primarily we connect with consumers. So somebody here may work, for example, if you work in North America, you may have a supervisor based in the geo. So if you worked in North America basketball footwear, then you may report up through a North America basketball boss, category boss, a supervisor, but then you also have somebody in the basketball team that you report to. Typically, you have one person that's responsible for managing your performance evaluations, but he will consult with the other members on the team. He or she will consult with the other members on the team to gain input to the performance evaluation. But essentially, you're usually working within a group, could be, you know, a handful of people, or it could be even more, depending on what your job is and what the opportunities are. And so a lot of times, and you know, the joke here is when I speak to newer employees, and we present the Matrix organization to them, it's always, hey, when you figure it out, come tell me, because I've been here 35 years and I still haven't figured it out. And there's some truth to that, because it is as much, I think, instinct as it is, you know, kind of spelled out on a chart. And I think a lot of it is just, you know, knowing when and where to communicate. And you know, again, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I think understanding what it is to be a good teammate and to work within the team. Phil Knight likes to say that we're at our best when we're coming together as small teams to attack a certain opportunity. And so a lot of times you may be working on several projects at once with different teammates. And it's not so much that you're recruited to work on certain projects. They usually fall within your job description. However, what's kind of fun about our company is that if you have a particular passion and you have the bandwidth and you have the support of your management, then you can get involved in other stretch assignments and projects that will stretch you, help develop different skills, and introduce you to a part of the company that then may be your next step in your career path. And a lot of times people will ask me, you know, well, geez, how did you plan your career? And, you know, it might be, it might just have been the generation that I grew up with, or it might have been the quirkiness of my personality. But when I started with the company, I was just like, I was just determined to create videos that were worthy of the people that I were working with and the brand. And I guess, I don't know if I was operating scared, but I felt this tremendous pressure to perform at a high level because that was the expectation. And you saw your teammates, footwear designers, marketing people, brand people, salespeople, people working in the product development pipeline that were doing a tremendous work. And so you wanted to rise to that level and, you know, be up to the task. And so, you know, I was just focusing on doing great work, and then once in a while I'd get a tap on the shoulder, and they'd say, you know, you did pretty well with that. Why don't you try this? And so I never really had a firm plan in place. I don't know if anybody could have, you know, could have mapped out the kind of career I've had here at Nike. But I've been very fortunate in that people would recognize when you know, good work was done and recognize that, well, maybe this person with that experience could do a great job over here. And I think that a lot of my colleagues would say the same thing, that they didn't necessarily set out to be where they are now, but it just kind of evolved based on the projects and the experiences that they gained, you know, at various times during their stay here at Nike.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Let me check with Susan to see if there's any questions that have come through. Great. Thank you. And as I take a look at this, what I might do is switch presentation so people can see some of the very nice PowerPoint slides that you had shared with me. Great. So, Mark, here's the question from Brett Klein. Can you speak to the culture of diversity at Nike?
That's a great question. We have a lot of networks here. The Gay and Lesbian Network. We have the African American Network. We have the Native American Network. I'm probably not thinking of all. We have the Women's Network. So from just a culture standpoint, the employees kind of take it upon themselves to get involved in various clubs and networks depending on their interest. And then I think, you know, I'll be honest with you, when I started, this was kind of a male-dominated culture, especially at senior management. You know, part of that was a reflection of the times, partly I think a reflection of the beginnings of the company. You know, we were started by athletes and coaches and primarily men. And unfortunately, in the 50s and 60s, a lot of those opportunities in athletics at that level were not open to a lot of women. So it took us a long time, even after I started, I think, to give opportunities to women and people of color. But I think to the credit of senior management, even if we were slow to address that, I think we've done a much better job of recognizing and being committed to having a diverse workplace at all levels. You know, from the board of directors through senior management and then on through the ranks. You know, I have no idea, and this may be my own fault, if we have, I don't think we do, but if we have certain, you know, metrics that we are holding ourselves to. I think it's more the general idea that we, you know, you can define diversity in a variety of ways, but we want to hire as many different types of thinkers from different countries, from different backgrounds, from different points of view, that bring different skill sets. And I think it's really exciting when I walk through the cafeteria, the coffee line, that you can hear all these different languages being spoken. You know, I remember Mr. Knight once said that he was just amazed when, you know, he went through the cafeteria that it felt like he was in the United Nations because, you know, he'd pick up on all these different languages. And I can't imagine that he ever thought that one day he could be head of a company that resembled the United Nations in terms of global perspective. So I'd be remiss to say that if you have the ability to speak more than one language, that would certainly give you an advantage in almost any application that you might submit to come into Nike. So are we perfect, and have we reached all our goals? Of course not. I think, you know, I think if you talk to a lot of women here, they'd say that there's still a lot of work to be done, particularly at the senior ranks, but I feel like we're making progress, and I also feel like we have people committed to continue to drive diversity throughout the company.
Great, thank you. And Mark, you mentioned a little bit earlier about international assignments. I'm assuming it may be as simple as letting your managers know, oh, I would like to have an international assignment. Is there any more information about that process or the likelihood of having those rotations?
Absolutely. You know, what's interesting in our performance evaluations, there is the opportunity, what we call individual development, and you call out where your desires where you may want to go next. And part of that is, are you willing to travel overseas or be stationed overseas? And I think for the most part, you know, again, for a company this size, I can't speak for all managers, but I think for the most part, I know our senior managers encourage middle management to encourage their employees to, if they have all-stars, you know, the tendency maybe to be, geez, I don't want to let this person go, he's so valuable to my team. But at the same time, part of our success here is to make sure that people that are our all-stars are recognized and given opportunities to move on to a new challenge if that's what they want to do. So, you know, it's not that I didn't have those opportunities. I think it's just the way my career developed that I was mostly just given the opportunities to be stationed here. So, but I would say that for the most part, yeah, if you have an opportunity, once you get in, I think the key thing is to kick ass at your job and, you know, master the fundamentals, maybe bring in some new ideas so that you're leaving the job at a higher plane or maybe a more effective situation than the job you inherited, and typically then that sort of success is recognized, and then you can pretty much have your choice of opportunities from there.
Great, thank you. So here's a question from Sean Tamashiro. How has social media changed the way Nike does marketing?
Well, that's another excellent question, and you know, as somebody in his 50s, I may not be the best one to answer that question, but what's fun is that I've just recently moved into a new office in neighborhoods that I'm sharing with our brand media team, and they're all people in their 20s and 30s. It reminds me of when I first started with the company, and they spend all their time focusing on having conversations and connections with our consumers through different social media platforms. From a sheer business strategy and investment standpoint, we're investing a lot more in our social media platforms than we are in more traditional media. Savvy American consumer fan of Nike probably notices we don't advertise on ESPN or the broader television platforms like we used to do, because we're investing a lot more in I can think more surgical communication opportunities with consumers through things like Twitter and Instagram and that sort of thing, and it's pretty exciting. We're getting ready to launch kind of a sneaker app where someone can go in and basically get a first look at an exclusive product or a limited distribution product, and have the opportunity, if they sign up, to be the first on their block to get certain limited edition product. And the guys that I work here in my neighborhood are really excited about that. I think they're going to launch it around the NBA All-Star game. So whoever asked that question, certainly I think is probably the leading question, probably knows that a lot of the ways Nike is building relationships with its consumers now fall into social media platforms and stories that we share with our consumers through those channels.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Earlier you mentioned about being an all-star, getting a job, kicking butt, and being an all-star. Can you tell us from Dot Williams, what does it take to become an all-star in your opinion, given that Nike is probably full of, very, very high-quality all-star types?
Well, again, I may not be the best person to answer that question. I work with a lot of all-stars. I'm not sure I'd include myself on that. I'm more of a survivor. But I think, at least at Nike, I think there are people that have somewhat charismatic personalities, that have some leadership qualities to them, that are good listeners, though, as well, that have the ability to see opportunities, recognize those opportunities, bring ideas to the table to attack those opportunities, and then to get people to come along. A lot of them, have experience in different parts of the company, so they would know the kind of people they would need on their team to kind of attack a particular opportunity. I think they're the kinds of people, though, that are quick to deflect credit and praise, and like I say, they lift up the entire team. And we have annual awards we call Maxim Awards, because we have 11 maxims that kind of drive our culture, other than our broad mission statement. And all of them are team awards, except for we have one called Remember the Man, and the man is Bill Bowerman, the slide that you see there. And that's an individual award. And this year it was awarded to an employee named Sandy Bodecker, who's just an amazing guy who's been involved. It was basically started our real efforts in international soccer and helped us grow from a $50 million soccer company in 1994 when the World Cup came to the United States. Now we're about a $2.3 billion global football company, and we did that in 20 years, primarily due to his early leadership. And then after he got that off the ground, he was asked to get involved in action sports, and we had a lot of misses and false starts with connecting with the action sport consumer, the skateboard enthusiast, the surfer, the snowboarder. Sandy completely devoted himself to getting to know those consumers, learning how to skateboard, speaking their language, studying what they needed, because a lot of those kids thought, well, Nike's just this big monolith that's going to come in and try to buy their way into the sport. And Sandy developed these personal relationships and recognized that actually there were innovations we could bring to that consumer, a broader footwear platform, for example. And, I think really did it the right way. And so anyway, I'm kind of going off a tangent, but Sandy is somebody who I really admire. He's an all-star, and he was recognized this year with the Remember the Man Award in our Maxims. And Sandy, the whole point of the story is when he was called on stage, he didn't even want to accept the award. First of all, he didn't want to be nominated for it because he said there's just too many people over the years that have helped me, in these various teams and capacities and projects that, to recognize me wouldn't be fair to all of those people. And so he was quick once he did get up on stage to, call out all of his teammates. And I think that epitomizes the Nike All-Star. Somebody, if you're going to equate it with sports, you look at somebody like Marcus Mariota of the Ducks, who is definitely an all-star Heisman Trophy winner, but the first thing he does is he credits his teammates. And it may be cliche, and maybe a lot of companies feel that same way, but I tell you, that's how Nike lives, and that's how I think the people here that are most successful behave, and it's really a pleasure to work with people like that.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So here's some additional questions, and I'm going to move the slide forward just for fun. Can you speak to how Nike feels about hiring older employees who might be in their 40s, 50s, or beyond, who can still bring a lot of value? A little side note is my own observation that I've heard, of course, people out of college like to join Nike, but I've also seen many people who are mid-career people join later in their professional lives. But can you tell us a little bit more about what you see in terms of older job candidates coming into Nike?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't work in HR, but I get the sense that, we're such a big company now. We have so many different opportunities as a growth company that I would think there would be more, just in terms of numbers, opportunities for people that are just starting out in their career. It just makes sense. Our direct-to-consumer division, is one of our big growth engines, and they typically hire a lot of people that work our bricks and mortar stores, but are also involved in getting our digital stores growing and off the ground. But that's not to say that there are not opportunities for people that are more experienced in their career. And I don't think in terms of age, but in terms of life experiences and career experiences and business experiences, middle management positions and above, particularly those that maybe have had opportunities to work overseas. We've seen people come from different industries into Nike. We've seen people come from MasterCard, Pepsi, Price Waterhouse. We have, like a lot of companies our size, we work with recruiting agencies and that sort of thing. So there are opportunities for people with experience, absolutely. Are we a young organization and we get our energy from youth? Absolutely. I think that's a fair thing to say. I still consider myself young, and my teammates here, keep me young and keep me energized. But that's not to say that there aren't opportunities for experienced, skilled people. I think that they have to be careful when they look at the website and the opportunities that they're, that they match the skill sets and the life experiences that they've had. So it becomes more kind of editing your application or your opportunity, or matching your opportunity or your skill sets to the opportunity. But there's not as many, granted, just because we are a growth company, and a lot of our growth comes in things like social media, direct-to-consumer, digital communication, and that sort of thing. But there are opportunities across the board, absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Mark. So with this next question, I may be able to help a little bit if you can also add to it. The question was about the site for jobs, for internships, for careers. And when I looked this morning, I think it's still NikeBiz.com. Is that correct?
I think so. I think there's also a link on the basic Nike.com website as well. So.
Okay, great. And for the job database sites, I believe you're able to create an account. You're able to get email alerts about jobs. So it's definitely something worth exploring. The second part of this question was regarding internships, whether they're available for credit. For the person who was asking this, I would just say the credit typically comes from U of O. So if you find a place to work to have an internship, it's trying to find the right place within the U of O, whether that's your major class or through the Career Center, that you're able to see if you can connect credit, taking a class to tie in the credit for that internship experience. This one, and anything else that you might add on that subject, Mark?
No, I would say that from Nike's perspective, all of our internships are paid positions, and I think we're competitive from what I understand in terms of even giving housing allowances, and our internships all get black badges, which give them full benefits to the employee store, to the fitness centers, and that sort of thing. So, our internship program has improved quite a bit, just even in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's a challenging internship program. In addition to whatever role, full-time position you may be taking on, you're teamed up with 5 to 6 other interns, and you're given a project, and then you pitch back to senior management at the end. The project could be, how would you attack a certain business opportunity? How would you connect to a certain consumer demographic? How could we do a better job of onboarding employees was one of them this year. So I really highly recommend, especially people that are still in school as they rise into their upper class years, that they check out our internship program. I think it's still called Adrenaline, and that is also, if you go to the job site, the internship is a subsite of that.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So this question comes from someone who is actually sort of in the job search process with Nike, and so using this as an information interview of sorts. The position looks like they're looking for is a brand marketing manager, and so from your experience in the brand world, what sets candidates apart? What might be the ideal candidate that they're looking for?
Well, I think that the ideal candidate would be, if it's a brand manager, I don't think it necessarily requires a lot of experience, but you'd obviously want to have taken some marketing classes, some business classes in school. Ideally, maybe had some experience working either for a marketing agency, an advertising agency, an event agency, or a corporation in their marketing department. You may be more likely to get to the interview stage if you've had various experiences along kind of the marketing spectrum in terms of advertising, public relations, digital communications, social media, that sort of thing. It kind of depends. I'm trying to think if we call them marketing managers, coordinators that are more kind of the entry-level brand people, brand marketing coordinators. I think if they're specialists, brand marketing specialists are typically more entry-level marketing positions. Managers, I think, would probably require more experience, or they would be hired from within, promoted from within, from the specialist position.
Great. And so it looks like this particular candidate does have the experience, and so might be one of those higher level opportunities. So good luck to you. So we still have a few more minutes for questions from the audience, but as we wait for any other questions to come in, maybe I can ask you this question, Mark. A lot of people come to U of O with dreams of using this as a stepping stone into Nike. Can you tell us about what it's like to be a duck at Nike? Are there just ducks? Are there just ducks everywhere? Do you get together? Do you have watch parties? Do you find each other for work assignments? Can you tell us what it's like to be a duck at Nike?
Well, there's nothing better than to be a duck, right? But especially if you're a duck at Nike. We have, I don't think we have a formal club or group, but we've been very fortunate in that, we have a pretty good relationship with not just the athletic department, but the Duck Athletic Fund and the Oregon Club of Portland here for the Ducks that are located at WHQ in Beaverton. And, for example, the last 2 summers, we've had kind of a summer barbecue out on the patio where Dana Altman and his staff have come in and spoken. I don't know if Mark Helfrich has come in. We've had Chip come in when Chip Kelly was football coach. In the not too distant past, we even actually had the football team come practice on one of the fields here at Nike, which was always a great day. We had the women's basketball team practice here on campus in the Bo Jackson basketball facility a few weeks ago. And so I got an email saying, hey, you want to come out and meet the new basketball coach and watch the women work out, and I did that. That was a nice little benefit. We try to help out when we can. We have the recruiting dinner for football coming up, the Oregon Club of Portland, and I think Todd Van Horn and Tinker will probably be donating some things for their auction. So we have a very vibrant and active DEC alumni base here at Nike, and we're connected in a lot of other ways. From a business standpoint, we're helping Ellen Schmidt-Devlin get the sports products career track school, I should say, off the ground here in the Portland campus. And Ellen's an ex-Nike executive who is starting this whole new education track for sports product positions, careers, and it's sorely needed because Portland's such a hotbed for designers, developers, marketers in the sports industry, with Nike and Adidas and Columbia Sportswear being located among others, Keen and other footwear companies. So it's fun, but it's also, I think, that we've taken advantage of that relationship to hopefully help the industry and help the university develop programs that will give us more qualified marketers, footwear developers, designers right out of school, and we're pretty excited about that. And then I get, on a personal level, I get to work with Tinker occasionally on special projects. We've taken a hard look at Hayward Field and how we can improve that facility. We've worked on some branding things with the University of Oregon. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a labor of love. In fact, in my job description, I get 10% of my job description is working on special backyard projects, and a lot of those backyard projects are with the University of Oregon.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. So here's the last audience question I'll ask. Aaron Bengay asked, is there a division that specializes in the environmental sector? He's wondering about opportunities to help make Nike as sustainable as possible.
Yes, we do have, again, I apologize, I don't know a lot about this area of the company, but I know that we have a team of people, a department, I don't know how large, but their whole focus is on sustainability. And we have specific goals in terms of, I don't know if we'll ever get to zero waste, but we have, we've kind of redefined what we think of product innovation as that true innovation has to not impact or negatively impact our environment. We look at everything from our manufacturing processes and techniques to how we package our products, how we ship our products, the entire spectrum, the kind of materials we use in our products. We have a footwear line we call Flyknit, which has almost zero waste. It's basically a knitting process that is all programmed through a computer, and then the machine basically knits your upper, and you're left with two small strings as your manufacturing waste, which is pretty incredible. And I think those two strings can probably be recycled as well. So I would just encourage those people that are interested in that area or have experience in that area to, again, check the website. But they would probably be under sustainability or access to sport. We have an access to sport division that is also committed to helping particularly young people from all around the world have access to opportunities to train and compete in sports, because all the studies that we've seen shows how being committed or involved and active in sports can help a young person in terms of their self-esteem, in terms of how they succeed in school, in terms of staying away from drugs or alcohol at a younger age. I mean, it just goes on and on, that being active and moving your body from a young age forward is good for you, not just in terms of your physical health, but also your mental and spiritual health as well. So we have a whole team that is kind of the flip side of the sustainability team that is working on access to sport, designed to move. So yeah, I mean, there are opportunities there, absolutely.
Yep, great. And again, I still recall the whole introduction of the Reuse a Shoe program or the shoe recycling program, and In my head, I think of the phrase Nike considered as a line, but again, that may be a little bit dated as well. So again, thank you for the update. So at this point, let me begin to wrap up, and what that will include is, let me shift the screen sharing for a moment, so if everyone will bear with me for just a brief second. All right. All right, so before we wrap up, I wanted to take a moment to do a shout out to some of the ducks that have joined us. Not necessarily by name, but it's wonderful to see that we've had ducks sign in from Colorado, from Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, Texas, and even in Canada. So the reason the Duck Career Network does these webinars is that we want to help connect ducks no matter where you live, and we want to provide you with interesting, exciting stories that ducks are doing. So again, that's the reason we featured Mark today. But I want to mention also that this program is only half over, because at this point, once I close this webinar, a website for the virtual networking event will pop up automatically. So hopefully you've already registered to participate. If you haven't done so, you can actually register and sign up right away and engage in virtual networking. For those of you who haven't tried this before, this is text-based networking. So you'll be corresponding with a conversation partner via text. There's no video, there's no audio, so you could still continue to have lunch. You could still have your coffee, but it is via text. And the goal of text-based virtual networking is to get the conversation started, to help you meet other ducks, and particularly today, there's going to be dozens and dozens of other Nike Oregon fans, and it's great to just meet who they are, learn how they're staying connected to Nike, learn about the experience they have, either networking within Nike, working at Nike. So I hope that as many of you will join as you can. The program automatically introduces you to a new person every 8 minutes. There will be a room where Mark will be situated. So if you specifically want to text chat with Mark specifically, you can queue up. You can line up in that particular room, and then you'll have your time to chit-chat with Mark. With his sessions, they're going to be a little bit brief. We're at 6 minutes just because there may be that many more people to sign up. But with that, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. A huge thank you to Mark Wilkinson for not only being a great representative of the U of O at Nike, but sharing your time and energy. And internally within the Alumni Association, thank you, Mark, for being part of our board of directors. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. So again, thanks for that. And last but not least, within the next 24 hours, I plan to send a follow-up survey to all registrants and attendees. Always looking for input, ideas on how we can improve this. If we're doing something well, we want to hear about that as well too. But for all of the ducks who are tuning in today, thank you so much for joining us. I am James Chang, Director of the Duck Career Network, here with Susan Burton, Assistant Director of Student and Alumni Relations at the Ford Alumni Center, and on behalf of Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and see you all in the virtual networking chat room. Take care. Goodbye. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, James, and thank you, everybody, for joining in. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. All right, Mark, I have shut down the recording. Let me stop sharing. And once I hit end event,